Hello everybody, welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast brought to you by the Scottish Rugby blog. I am Cammy Black. We've got feedback here somehow, haven't we? I can hear my own voice.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird.
You're kind of roboting already, Cam.
I'm roboting already. It'll sort itself out, I'm sure. Anyway, we didn't think there'd be much to talk about this week. I thought, well, the Chile team's getting announced. Let's do this Thursday. And then loads of news has happened. In fact, news happened almost immediately after John uploaded the last episode of the podcast.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
So we'll come on to that probably in a moment. But joining me this evening, we've got Johnny McGinty. Good evening, Johnny.
Good evening.
John Anderson. Hello, John.
Yo.
And Craig Manson. Hello, Craig.
Hello, all. How are we doing?
You can watch us live. We are on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can also download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere else that you can get podcasts. You should be able to download the podcast as well. If you want extra content every week, then from £3 a month, you can sign up to the Patreon, which is patreon.com/Scottish Rugby Podcast. And we will give you a bonus weekly episode. And when we don't put out normal episodes, we'll try and put out a Patreon-only episodes as well. You also get access to a super secret social media group that we've got where you can join like-minded people inside this echo chamber that is our Patreon Facebook group. A marvellous place to be. We're all as one voice, slagging off the same people. It's nice. Nice place to be.
Speaking of slagging off people, can we just address two points of action here? Point number one, is that a weights bench behind Johnny?
Yes.
Right, okay.
It's always been there. The only reason that you notice it now is because I'm not in uni at the moment, so I've actually been using it, so it's got a weight on it.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's normally got his washing.
Yeah,
It has normally got washing in it, yeah.
Or Hoggy's shorts are still in it, I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, they're just in the corner there, yeah.
Yeah, and point two, why is Craig lighting his face with a Tesseract?
Well, it's such a beautiful day that the sun is shining straight through into my room. So I've put the blind down, but unfortunately, there's so much garbage on the shelf that I can't get the blind down fully. So I've got a little section here that's sun.
I don't think it's sun. I think it's. I was going to say it's the. You've got the a small tiny model of the suitcase from Pulp Fiction just open on your desk.
Yeah, like,
I am John Travolta. Oh no!
The sun's reflecting off his DVD copy of Defend the Castle, Edinburgh's double winning season has just come out.
hashtag Pizza Crunch.
Double winning season.
Yeah, they won the 1872 of the Pizza Crunch Trophy.
Please tell me, have they released the DVD of that though, Johnny?
No, but me and John suggested maybe that
Not
they
yet,
should.
no.
Yeah.
If it was Glasgow and they'd won any sort of silverware this year, they would have it out. That's for sure.
I believe what I originally asked them to do was to release a VHS limited edition of it. But
That's right. Yes.
no reply.
No.
Your marketing team are dreadful, Craig.
It's a mystery.
My marketing team. You haven't met my marketing team of the cult of Blair.
Of the Hoovers.
Craig doesn't need marketing.
I don't need marketing.
The Hoovers sell
He
themselves.
just the good word spreads itself, John. We say we've
This has
got
started well.
Hola from Santiago. Hello, Angus, out on tour. We've got people watching from Chile. That's exciting. So
That is a massive humble brag, isn't it?
I need
is
to know if
humble
Angus
brag
lives
right
in Santiago or if he's gone all the way to Santiago to watch Scotland Day.
Yeah, let us know, Angus. And we're really sorry you've tuned in for some quality rugby chat, and all we've been doing is talking about Tesseract and VHS tapes. So, wait, as a treat for Angus, because I don't know what the time difference there is. I'm assuming it's going to be what? Are they ahead or behind?
They'll be
They're behind.
7 hours behind-ish, maybe.
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah,
I was a bit
about
worried.
lunchtime.
I was a bit worried it was past his bedtime. So there's no rush to do the Chile. You can listen to the other chat before we get to the Chile preview in a moment. I want to pick up, though. I think it's important that we pick up from kind of the discussion you guys were having last week about the announcement for the support for the women's game, because you had that, and
Didn't I look like an ass?
I know a wee bit of a rant about it. But, well, this is the thing, right? And we've talked about it before on this podcast. Sometimes well, more often than not, the comms from the SRU is just atrocious. So we had this women's strategy announced on, was it the Wednesday you did the podcast?
Done it on the
Aye.
Wednesday, so it was out on the Wednesday.
It was out on the you did Wednesday night, out Thursday. Thursday lunchtime, there's a massive package of financial support for women's rugby announced.
Yeah, because they announced the strategy on Monday.
That was it, yeah.
And it was hugely underwhelming.
Nonsense.
Craig and John made several references to the fact that it was very underwhelming on Wednesday night, and then on Thursday they're like, look, all this money.
Don't you look like the schmucks?
I like
with your fancy podcast.
They did it on purpose.
If people had tuned into the official Scottish Rugby podcast, then they wouldn't have had this disappointment.
Yeah,
no,
you don't get chat about VHS tapes on the official one.
You don't know.
You just get Chris Paterson in his car looking like his wife's kicked him out, and he's nowhere else to go.
I didn't know that was an option. If I knew that was an option, I could.
You can do it from your car, like Mossy. He looks like. Do you remember Marion and Jeff? He looks like he's sat outside. I'm sure he's a very happily married man, but he honestly looks like he records it from outside his ex-wife's house. Every time they'd have to do I don't know whether he's just not got space in his house to go find somewhere quiet, and he just has to go to his car in the driveway. But it just looks like they've just caught him like.
He's halfway through a monologue about captaincy and then just goes, oh, the bitch is going out.
Hang on, everyone.
Here comes another DM from the SRU tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we should clarify that. So Chris Paterson looks like he's outside of his ex-wife's house. We're not saying that he is. He's obviously out there because he needs somewhere quiet to go. SRU need, if anything, what we're pushing for here is Chris Paterson needs to earn more money from the SRU.
Yeah,
SRU needs to pay Chris Paterson more money so he can afford to
a shed at the bottom of the garden to do
shed at the bottom of the garden. That's all it is. I'm in the kids' playroom, Chris. It's fine.
Anyway, got a playroom? That's all we want to know.
No, I'm not going to say where my head just went there. Let's just move on. Chris Paterson playroom.
Mine also did.
I took a beat and I thought we're not in the Patreon special yet. Let's just save that off for later on.
Yeah.
Chris Paterson's Playroom, possible title for this podcast. Anyway, let's get back to it, because I mean, this is the frustrating thing is with the announcement is, the big thing that got not just coverage from within Scotland, but outside of Scotland. And there was huge support from professional women as rugby players in England, from rugby commentators, Squidge was all over it, big, huge thing. The announcement on Thursday was the thing everyone latched on to. This is big news. Scotland are investing in professional women's rugby. That should have been the headline. This should be like, we're launching this big thing of human women, and we're also launching this strategy, by the way, which is kind of this is going alongside it. But here's the big news, folks, on the Monday for you to chat about for the rest of the week. Not here's a strategy with the 5 W's that aren't really W's, but we've, someone's come up with the idea of the 5 W's, but so we're going to stick with it. And we're going to do some sort of funding for women's rugby. And then you and John get all upset about it. And then, like I said, it looked like schmucks. It's the wrong way around is what I'm saying.
No, it was the wrong way around. And actually, we were just saying that the optic of massive announcement of support for, let's call it what it is, contracted players, as well as other grassroots funding, with an amendment that is, and we're also supporting the women for the World Cup. We're putting investment into that. That switch round looks so much better than it. I mean, it does just look like, we're going to put this out. Maybe that'll be enough. Oh no, look, John and Craig moaned about it. Right, we'll put some more out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it can be that, because we're taking more planning than just sat watching you at 8:30 on a Thursday or a Wednesday night, turning the press release in a whole launch. But
you
we'll
never
know.
Camera
much.
The thing is, also it then looks like now that they've released the first part of it, and the first part of it is saying that we're supporting them to the World Cup, and then if they qualify for the next World Cup, then we'll make them all professional. If they don't qualify for the World Cup, then maybe will we put the funding in? It just comes out, the cynical Craig in me comes out and thinks, is that a possibility? You know,
There's a
I'm
master-
over the I'm over the moon with it. I'm absolutely made up, and I'm really thankful that they've actually got their finger out of the proverbial and got on with it. And I think it's a positive step. But just as you say, it's like trying to find a backside from their elbow, you know.
Yeah. But it is positive because it provides some certainty. I think somebody pointed out on Twitter when we were kind of talking about it, we don't know to what level the contracts are going to be. So some of the players will already have professional jobs that may actually pay better than, what's on offer from professional rugby. It's still, you obviously can't go from 0 to 60 like that and expect, parity with the men immediately. But you would hope that would come quite quickly, Johnny. That they can't be. At least needs to be more than a living wage.
Yeah,
because ultimately, just like the men's player, they're putting the bodies on the line, and careers are frighteningly short in rugby, as we know.
Yeah, so because I've kind of used the example of Rachel Malcolm quite a lot. I can't see them paying her as much as being a doctor is going to pay her. Certainly not straight away. So whether part of the strategy is maybe they say to her, if the NHS will let you go down to 2 days a week,
She's not a
make
GP
it
doctor.
up to full or whatever.
She's not a GP doctor,
No.
She's
What
sports.
is she?
She's a PhD in sports.
Oh, is she?
Science.
I thought she was a doctor.
No, PhD doctor. She's a proper
Who's
doctor rather than the ones
who's the doctor then? Because one of them's like a medical doctor, are they not?
There's a couple of vets.
Oh,
There's a
maybe
couple
it's
of vets.
So are they? So in those cases, are they going to go to them and say, if your employer will let you do 2 days a week, we'll make up the rest of your wage, or are they going to ask people to choose? Because that's not a very nice situation either. Hopefully, it expands from here, and this is just the starting point. But
if you want to be a professional sports person in a game that by the age of 30 to 35 you're finished, and if you're qualified as a vet, then if the wage is an okay living wage, then you've got that opportunity to say, I'm going to put my veterinarian career on hold, and I'm going to go and actually be a professional sports staff. And that's the argument that I've been kind of talking about lately, is the fact that we need to give these professional athletes the opportunity to say, right, well, there's Jamie Roberts, for example, studied all the way through while and he's now a doctor. And he's got the opportunity to continue playing as a rugby player or become a doctor. Now, okay, fair enough, he's being paid, well, in his heyday, I'm sure he'd be getting paid 500,000 or 400,000 or whatever, which I don't think our women are going to be paid, but there's no chance they're going to be paid that amount of money if the SRU have anything to do with it. But we need to be in a situation where we now, if we want to be, if the money is there and the contracts are there, then we need to start bringing through professional players, and then it's up to them to then deal with their other career further down the line.
Yeah,
I think so
that makes sense. But the problem with that is that, if you're a vet and you've got your mortgage based on a vet's salary and your car's based on a vet's salary and all that, and then all of a sudden you're saying, oh, actually for 10 years I'm not making a vet's salary. That's a huge decision to ask them to make. Yeah. It depends what the difference is, though. You never know, they might be getting paid similar.
Yeah.
But it's not, I suppose, it's not a choice. I suppose it's difficult. It's the kind of thing that Scottish Rugby got wrong at the start of men's professionalism. It's the transition we're talking about. So I agree with you, Craig. I think the young women coming in now are in the same position as the young men, although their choices are they're not going to be offered the same weight. I mean, the academy players might be on the same money. I don't know, but the opportunity there is different, isn't it? From you starting out on your career is different from those that are already on a career. It's a heck of a thing to give up, as Johnny says. And with some of them, for example, Emma Wassell's an accountant. So for her, she's going to continue to be an accountant, a bit like Jamie Roberts. She's going to have to continue to study and continue to keep her qualifications in check and continue to practice. Same with vets, we're going to have to continue to practice to an extent. And it looks like from the announcement by the SRU that they're going to be allowed to do that, which is probably you would hope that's probably the way forward, is a kind of hybrid working of, look, you can carry on being a vet, but we're going to expect a massive commitment from you if you want us also to kind of pay you something to come and be a professional women's rugby player. But we understand the career short, and so we want also, because there's plenty of men's players supported, as you say, with Jamie Roberts, and there's a couple of, I think, guys around at the minute who are professional rugby players that are studying and doing bits on the side, aren't they? So long as they're able to do that to an extent, then I haven't got a problem with it.
Yeah, I think the big, I've been banging the drum for ages about the Scottish women rugby players to be able to concentrate on their training, concentrate on their skills. All they're thinking about every day is rugby, apart from their break time, apart from their break days, etc. So I kind of have to maybe be a little bit more extreme than your thoughts and Johnny's thoughts, because I'm the one that's been saying we need to pay them a decent wage so that they can continue, they can become better athletes, and we can go to World Cups and not have to scrabble around to try and qualify. It's an automatic qualification, or it's to raise our game up. So I have to kind of say, well, we are at this point now where the youth are going to come through and they're going to study, as we've just talked about, and they're going to have the opportunity to study, but they're also and get ready for the end of their career so that they've got another career. But we also have to be aware that some of the other players that maybe they're getting paid $100,000 a year as such and such whatever they're doing, well, that's up to them, but we can't really expect them to get any better unless they commit to the program.
Yeah, I suppose the problem is, though, that to take a very extreme example, when Stuart Hogg retires at 34 or whenever, he's probably never going to have to work again in his life if he doesn't want to, if he's invested his money soundly.
Yeah.
When if I'm trying to think who's one of the young, Christine Belle-Isle, is given, one of the younger players retires at 34. She's going to be no better off than if she worked in an office, based on what we think they're going to have paid the players. So I think that's the difference. And I think if you're going to, I get why, I do get it. In an ideal world, I want the women played the same as the men. I think we'd all agree with that. I get why they're not, because the marketing's not there yet, the money's not there yet, the income isn't there yet from the women's game. So if you're going to acknowledge that, then I think they need to be given more opportunities to do things outside of rugby whilst also having a professional career than the men are. To make the difference, to kind of balance things out a little bit. Yeah. But it's good. Overall, it's very positive. The other thing is, I would guess, is where there is talk of a professional women's team in partnership with other partners, I think.
It's dripping out now, isn't it? Because Benetton announced the same thing. After the URC 6 weeks ago, we're like, we'd love to have a semi-professional.
We had an away day. The ARC had an away day, and they were like, the top thing that came out was a women's league. Yeah. And then, is it Italy have announced the same thing, haven't they?
Benetton have announced that they're going to have a women's team, semi-professional women's team, kind of tied in. I think basically somebody from the URC away day had too many beers on the bus and decided to just tweet what they'd been talking about, and now every union's like scrabbling around to make it happen.
That's the kind of marketing. It's the marketing advice they got from Jay-Z.
Pop some bottles, tell them what you're thinking. Yeah, that might actually be a Jay-Z lyric.
Keep it real, Johnny. The other thing is a semi-pro. We get like kind of a semi-pro top division in Scotland as well. Craig, have I misremembered that from the announcement?
I'll have to go back and read it, to be honest with you. I know that they were I was under the impression that they were going to try and set up a couple of teams that were semi-pro in all your Scotland. I think it was 2, and align them with the clubs, so that so I'm kind of unsure where that's going to go. I know that they are realigning all the club competitions as well. So they're taking National 1 eventually, and they're going to actually make it regional now as well, rather than a national. And I think the Premiership's only going to be the one national but that's in the next couple of years. So there's been a lot of different announcements all kind of at one time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's two semi-pro clubs aligned with the teams.
Yeah.
At the moment, but we'll wait and see.
Well, exciting times. We'll see where that leads. What should we do? It feels like we can seamlessly move into the announcement that came out today about Mark Dodson.
Is there ever a seamlessly?
Well, I think it's only because he kind of like was. Although the announcement came from Jim Malander, there seems to be a lot of. I don't know. His face is kind of being put all over the women's announcement as well. And he's been put front and center, and it's kind of like, oh, this is something he's seen through, and he's a big part of this. And so obviously today's been asked, the council, I think, or the board, I get them mixed up, have voted unanimously for him to extend his contract for 18 months through to 2025. It's difficult, John, to deny. I think nobody can deny that Mark Dodson has done very good things for Scottish rugby financially, that we got through the COVID pandemic better than not just other unions, but other sporting organisations because of his frugalness and smart think. Some of the smart thinking he's put in place. However, we also know the flip side of that is, the rumblings we've had in the past from, Keith Russell and other bits and bobs that all is not well and has not been well in the past with how the SRU been run by Mark Dodson. And we've got the restructure of how it's going to be governed. And it kind of felt like I kind of wonder with the governance review and the restructuring of the way it's all going to be run, whether or not it wasn't a kind of time for some fresh blood and a time to say, look, let's get a new, you've got 18 months more of Mark Dodson. 18 months is plenty of time to find a successor, bring him in and then start afresh with the new board and council and restructure.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the statement though was quite interesting because they obviously highlighted in the announcement that we are approaching a period of significant uncertainty and change in Scottish rugby, and that having a steady hand at the helm for that would be a good idea, which would suggest to me that we're aware that 2023 is going to be a switcheroo certainly for the head coach of the Scotland team, and that we'll probably be recruiting, and there'll be quite a lot happening in the next year post World Cup. So I think Dodson would probably be, I think he would be kept in position because he is a steady hand and he has shown that he's able to financially make sure that, budgets are there. Even with the Glasgow announcement, it was like, if we see the right person, we'll pay the money. So he hasn't been scared to spend money, and I think that is necessary to attract people to Scotland. But I agree with you. I think the financial aspects is all great and brilliant, but ultimately there's elements of the management style that hasn't necessarily worked and probably needs to be, we need the next guy to do all the financial stuff as well, but also treat people with respect and proper. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like to borrow a Doctor Who analogy. He's almost been like a war doctor, Johnny. He's kind of like the kind of thing that Scottish rugby needed because it was almost before he came in. It was almost paralysed by the kind of militant factions within the clubs, still clinging on to the last hopes that rugby would turn amateur, even though it had been 10 years deep in professionalism by the time he came along. And I don't know, he kind of, he's forced a lot of things through. They haven't always been popular, but I think in the long run, you can say they've worked to an extent. I mean, Super 6 is working. It's not, maybe COVID kind of has stumped a little bit, but it's producing players. It's been played to high standard. In terms of finances, we're a lot better off than England and Wales, for example. But there are definitely other areas where maybe a bit more kind of bridge building needed to be done.
Yeah. Even with my limited knowledge of never having watched Doctor Who, that makes a lot of sense. And the thing is, like, as much as he is, or he comes across as being quite brash, and He's not scared to go to bat for what he wants. It's never really gone wrong. We all had a bit of a cringe at the old suing the weather, but Scotland got what they needed.
But they played that game, but that's the bottom line.
Yeah,
that game got played.
Yeah, and I guess it comes down to whether the board and the council think that that's the sort of personality that we're going to need for the next few years, and whether they know something that we don't know, and they think that maybe actually we should keep that sort of personality around. I agree with you. I think maybe a bit of a softer approach is going to be needed sooner rather than later. But without knowing what's coming, we might be wishing for Dodson in another 18 months.
I don't think you can sue the weather. I don't think there's any weather you need to sue in France for Craig, is there?
No, I don't think we're going to have any. He's not going to be standing on the edge of the sea shouting at the weather in France. He may be sitting with a little drink with an umbrella in it in France, but he won't be shouting at the weather. The problem you have is that I see the case from business wise, and if you look at we're now at a stage where we're going into Murrayfield for an international game, and you struggle to get a ticket because it's full. We've got a great exiles program. We're bringing in some phenomenal players. All of this, but his leadership has allowed us to have the money to do that. I think and also to having someone bullish as he is. I'm always a big fan of someone slapping the Blazers around a little bit, and I think he's one of those people that can do that if need be, and tell them fairly straight exactly where we are with it. So I think that for me, I'm fairly happy with him staying on just now. And if the issue you also have is what do we get next? Who do we get next? What's going to happen next? And you always worry about those things as well, because I think we've had a fairly rude health. SRU's been in fairly rude health monetary wise, and no matter what anybody says, if you don't have the money, all the goodwill in the world ain't going to get you anything.
I tell you what, the remuneration package is on. You're not going to struggle to find others. They'll be queuing around the block. Some of the best guys in the world to come in and do the.
That's very true. We could do it just docking his pay. Even if he docked one of his bonuses, I think you could pay for the Scottish Women's Programme.
That's the thing, though. Like, it's a valid point to mention the remuneration that he's got, because he's been handsomely rewarded for what has been. And do you know what? People can criticise and say, "Oh, he's not done a good job. We've not made progress on the park." His job isn't necessarily to have us playing better rugby on the park. His job's not to win the Six Nations. His job's to employ the people to get us closer to that.
Yeah.
Whilst also managing the financial side and the growth of the game. Player numbers.
His job's to not have us in mountains of debt, which he's done a lot better than the CEOs of any other nations have.
And because of that, he gets paid well. And you're absolutely right. When it comes to replace him, there is money to replace him. So you can pick and choose your candidates. You can pay the top buck for the right person. And that's a really powerful position to be in. And, look at the RFU are about to have all their chickens coming, it's coming to roost all at the same time, because they're going to be losing a head coach. They're going to be, there's going to be management needing replaced. There's going to be all sorts of things happening there, and they've not got a dime to rub together.
They hosted a World Cup less than a decade ago and have lost all the money already.
Yep.
Yeah. Mark Dodson was appointed in 2011. So that's 12. I've got my maths right here. So 11 years ago.
11 years, yeah.
So he's been there 11 years. So you think there are players playing now in Scotland who would pretty much have come fully through the systems in that time.
Yep.
And you have to say that you look at where Scotland was in the standard of players playing for Edinburgh and Glasgow and playing for Scotland in 2011 to compared to the standard of players playing for Scotland now, and where Scotland are in the world now, is that we have a lot of catching up to do, but the players now are of a much higher quality, and I think if you look at it in terms of every country has progressed in terms of skills and in terms of development, but we've probably progressed faster, although we've not completely caught up, so that now we're kind of 5th, 7th in the world rather than 10th.
Is the video of Joe Ansborough cracking his head open off Alistair Strokosh not from the 2011 World Cup?
No, it was the summer tour.
That was the summer tour playing in Newcastle in the absolute gubbing rain in Australia.
So it was.
So the 2011 World Cup was
New Zealand.
Was New
Was that
Zealand?
the
Yeah.
New-
Yeah, that was the New Zealand. That was
New Zealand one.
That was the Chris Paterson amazing tackle against England. The us absolutely shanking.
So that was the first. So that's the first World Cup in which we didn't progress from the group stages.
Yep.
So that's the standard you're looking at compared to where we are now, and that's all down to. And I'm not saying it's all down to Mark Dodson because there are other people involved, but in terms of funding for pathways and structures, it's absolutely night and day to where Scotland were and where we are now.
However, the head clash was 2011 in the summer.
I thought it was. Yeah.
The thing is,
this summer?
Can you imagine Joe Ansborough and Alistair Strokosh being in the Scotland squad now?
No,
not Strokosh.
That's what we've come from when Dodson took over.
Yeah, we've got a year and a half for Al Kellogg to be groomed to come in and take over from Dodson when he and then we'll be fine, John.
Be my guest.
Can we not get Nathan Lovelace back?
That's
exactly.
Playing the long game, get him in charge, get him to sort Canada out, and get
exactly. Bit of experience.
He's doing what the All Blacks do. He's going abroad for a wee bit of experience, and then he's going to come back and take the big job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move on from Mark Dodson then. Shall we talk about the announcement today? We've got it for the Scotland A international against Chile. I still don't like that we haven't got a proper name for our A team.
Yeah, like we could be really creative, couldn't we? The Scottish Caledonias.
The Scotland Unicorns.
I think the Unicorns is the best one we've ever come up. We've talked about that in the past. And I think the Unicorns is the best one.
It should be the Unicorns. Yeah, it's our national animal.
Yeah.
Or the Scotty Dogs.
The Greyfriars Bobbies.
Not the Bobbies.
I mean, it doesn't really cut it if you're going, we're going with that and then we're up against the Wolfhounds. It's a wee bit of a there's a psychological element there.
Magic though.
Just wait till have you not heard about Stirling's new rebranding?
No.
I like it.
No.
We'll come to that later.
Absolutely.
Okay, right. We'll keep on Chile just now. I'm going to have to Google that in the meantime while we're having one of you talking. So, the Scotland squad for the Chile game, you've got, we'll go from the back to the front, Ollie Smith, Damien Hoyland, Matt Curry, Siona Teal, Pulotu, Rufus McLean, Ross Thompson, George Horn, Jamie Batty, Dave Cherry, Javan Sebastian, which we'll talk about in a moment, no doubt, Jamie Hodgson, Scott Cummings, Ben Muncaster, Luke Crosby, and Matt Ferguson. Then on the bench, Johnny Matthews, Pierre Schumann, it's Murphy Walker, isn't it?
Yeah.
I keep want to say Murray. And there goes Murray Walker. Glenn Young, Maggie Bradbury, Ali Price, Blair Kinghorn, and Mark Bennett. My immediate thought was that Tooney's bottled it, because if you're going to go in international, and there's a lot of hand holding going on there, and I just would have absolutely not bothered with that at all and just played the kids. It feels like a massive missed opportunity just to kind of throw everybody at it just for a laugh.
There's no ranking points. There's no caps. Steph from Rock and Roll Rugby will be happy because Javan Sebastian still can go back to Wales in 880 whatever it is days. I am a little bit with you on that.
Yeah. What was your thoughts on it, John?
It does feel like that. It feels a wee bit like, when we sometimes play teams and like the autumn internationals, and it's like, okay, so we're putting out a kind of development team, but actually we've got the big boys on the bench ready to come on. So I mean, that's a pretty strong bench we're packed down with. So it's like, if it's all going wrong, we could just send the big boys on and we'll go and sort it out.
But what does it matter if it's going on? Like Johnny says, there's nothing at stake here.
No, I know. And
yeah, the Autumn Internationals are a little bit different because there's ranking points and stuff up for grabs in Autumn, but this is literally a nothing game.
I think we also do need to remember as well, it's Chile. It's like we're not exactly, even if this was like Tonga or, a kind of understrength Samoa or something, we'd be like, all right, okay, well, that's a bit of a risky side, but we'd still be saying we should get the job done, probably 20 points. We're talking about Chile. It's like, so.
Yeah, but we talked about this earlier, John. Yeah, I go back to the touring squad. I don't, Hamish Watson, Duhan van der Merwe, Rory Sullivan. Well, maybe Rory Sullivan because he's not played a huge amount because he's been injured. But there's an awful lot of players that I didn't think should have gone to Argentina in the first place because they should have taken younger players. Because it's a now that we've got if you look at that bench. And you look at some of the players that are in the actual starting squad. If we start getting put under the pump, it's going to be like the world's ended within the press and the Scotland fans. Whereas if we had a young team out to develop them, we could turn around and go, well, what do you expect? They're a young team, there should be blood in a few more of the players. Hamish Watson shouldn't have been going out there. He should be resting, and we should have had Connor Boyle going out.
And things like it's an opportunity for these boys to experience a tour. Hamish Watson's been on the on a Lions tour during COVID. I mean, there's no tougher tour than that. What we've seen on ITV so far.
That's been brilliant, by the way.
Yeah,
it's been really good.
But then you've got. That's why Schumann's going, because Schumann, okay, fair enough. Schumann's a well-rounded prop and he's a starter for Scotland, but he's on tour because he's never been on a Scotland tour before.
I think it was the Matt Ferguson thing that got me, because Johnny, it feels like a massive missed opportunity not to throw Andy Christie in with the other two back rowers.
Yeah. I agree. Because I actually watched the Premiership final on Saturday. He was really good when he came on.
He was very good. Yeah.
Really good.
And then elsewhere, you've got, it's hard to see elsewhere. I mean, Javen Sebastian, do you want to talk about, we were saying, Johnny, before on the group chat about Sam Lana's thread earlier in the week about what props do.
Yeah, which has not necessarily switched my opinion of Sebastian, but it has switched my opinion of why you would pick him, because we talked about WP Nell and thing, and people are asking who's going to be the first choice tight head. WP Nell is still the best scrummager of any of our tight heads. It's close with Xander. I think Xander probably just about got him, but apart from all the rest of them, Nell is the best, right? But if you look at Sam's thread from earlier in the week, and I retweeted it if you haven't seen it, he looked at attacking rucks in this year's Six Nations, and by position, which players from which team are the first person to arrive at attacking ruck. And for Scotland, Scotland used their props to do that, and it was like 23.5% or 24% of the time. The first player into an attacking ruck for Scotland is a prop. With all the love in the world to WP Nell, who we all love more than anybody, WP Nell is not getting to 12% of our attacking rucks first, ever. Right? And so the point that Sam was making...
How very dare you?
Well, he's not, let's be honest.
Not unless there's a chicken wings
someone who's never seen a ruck in his entire life before.
Don't you dare. But the point that Sam was making is that if you take somebody out who's doing that job, then that work's got to go somewhere else. So in Scotland's case, that probably means that somebody like Scott Cummings or Jamie Ritchie then starts having to hit 12% of the rucks first. And they're our main carriers in the forwards, so that you don't have anyone to do the carrying. It's not going to affect them. It's not going to affect. So although I don't think Sebastian is anywhere near as good as WP Nell, I understand a bit now why he's in there, why he's doing what he is, because he will get to more rucks. And then that means more people in the team can keep doing the jobs that they're meant to do. It makes a lot of sense.
Do we know that though? Do we know that he would get to more rucks?
Well, that's probably Kev Linus just pointed out that the English lads camp. I forgot they can't play as it's outside the national window, which is why Andy Christie camp isn't at 8.
Same with Duhan, he's there but can't play.
Yeah, that's right.
I think John, the point you're going to make is, do we know that Javen Sebastian can make that number of rucks? We don't, I guess, but I suppose it's and Sam was also talking another thread about the Moneyball effect, and rugby is a bit of a Moneyball game, and it's not about throwing the best 15 players in, and we've said this before. It's not about picking your best 15 players and sending them out to win a game. It's about sending out the 15 players that will fit the system that your team either needs to or wants to play. And I think for me, I think something Gregor Townsend has learned is Scotland are still not at a place where we can pick and choose what game we want to play. We still have some limitations, so there is an element of we're stuck with what we've got, and we've got to play a certain way, and we've got to play to our strengths.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would probably counter that by saying that we're a year out from a World Cup and have been under the tenure of the same coach for quite some time now, and to not have, if we're not able to play in different ways, then I get the personnel limitations. I really do, and I appreciate that. But ultimately, that then is a failure of the coaching team. That's not like, the guys getting called up. That's not a reflection on them. If we're not able to play in different ways, that's because the coaches have decided not to, or left it too late in the day to attempt that. So
I would say playing in the ways that we can play with the players we've got is a success of the coaching team. Like Gregor Townsend, try as he might, Mark Dodson try as he might, cannot find 500,000 rugby players like England have got, like France have got. So he has no option other than to look at the players and go, all right, well, this is what we've got. This is how we're going to play. He can't just go, we're going to play this way. If the skill sets and the physical condition.
I'd say we're going to be the fastest.
But there is. I know there is.
In the world,
Yeah, I know there was that, but then there is, and Craig, you'll know, Steve coach, but the SIU have a blueprint for how they want players to be trained from a young age in Scotland to produce. I suppose to play to the strengths of a typical, the kind of players that Scotland will produce biologically, I guess. Do you know what I mean by that? Like,
yeah. I mean, we don't have a
we're not going to produce 7
like
feet.
South Africa
Exactly. We're not producing 7-foot blonde tree trunks of guys.
Scott McLeod.
I mean, Scott McLeod is a genetic freak because he's from the same family as Darcy Graham.
Well, listen. Again, I was talking to John about it earlier on. You just need to look at the Van der Merwe family on the Lions documentary, and let's just say Duhan is the freak and the adopted one out of the whole
Duhan's
family.
Adopted. That's been decided.
I don't know. In the face and biceps, he looks a lot like Acker, but that's like everything. Like that's all the similarities they've got.
Yeah, but Acker's 5'8" and he's about 6'10" or something, as you know.
Big old arms and a pointy jaw is pretty.
That's why I felt bad for my brother when we were on holiday last week with him. Poor lad, I got with me all week. This and this.
For some reason, my head just went. I thought you were going to say the biceps and the jawline.
I think that's what you said.
If I showed you Cammy's biceps and jawline and Duhan van der Merwe's biceps and jawline, you'd be hard pushed to tell them apart, Craig.
Exactly.
Guess who's coming back in the pod next week?
I was going to say, this is sticky bum lick, I tell you.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, I think we have a way that we want to play, and I think Townsend has at times been quite rigid in what he's attempting to do. And he's picked personnel to do that, and he's had a lot of successes with that. Don't get me wrong. I think, the big one obviously jumps out that Chris Harris is not the centre anybody wanted at any point until it was revealed that he's actually, a great defensive centre, and we could all see the value in it. So that's why he gets paid a lot of money. I just think if you're going to be competitive at an international level, look at the teams above us in the rankings, right? Yes, they have more players than us, but ultimately we have a strong international group of players, and we're not in a position to necessarily have a plan B. And those are guys who they play plan B for their clubs. It's not like they're just all stuck in absolute madcap mode or Townsend pragmatism mode. They play different ways. So
see, the weird thing about this is that at the exact same time as we're saying this, I can think of at least 2 Welsh rugby podcasts at the exact same time that are saying Pivac needs to get a grip because he's trying to force players to play a way he wants to play when the Welsh players don't have the mindset or physical capability to do it. So he needs to adjust his game plan to fit the players that he's got. And they think that's what he should be doing. That's what Townsend is doing. And we're going, I can't believe that Townsend's not coming up with a different way to play. How is this happening? He's doing exactly what the Welsh are screaming out for.
Is that a legacy of Gatland, though?
I wouldn't swap them for Pivac, though.
Oh, absolutely not.
I suppose, this is a bit of it's a freebie, this game, because I don't really know what we're going to learn from this. It's an opportunity for the lads to go out, and it's a tour game. We'll win it. It's a good experience for Chile. I feel, Chile have qualified for the World Cup. They've qualified for the World Cup, but are you hard pressed to see us losing this game with the players?
Have they actually qualified for the World Cup, or are they not? Have they not got a playoff?
Is it the playoff they qualify for? They're not Canada. Have you not seen that one? There's that wonderful video.
Canada and the USA, or
there's that wonderful.
USA, I think that's the USA. The USA game is coming up.
The
warm up for the USA game.
Do you remember that there's that wonderful video where I can't remember, was there 9 or 10?
And Squidge shared it.
Because at the end of the game, because Squidge was following Chile and rugby quite closely, and now they're 9 or they're 10, gives a shout out to Squidge.
Yeah, he's like, now you can make a video about this.
It's amazing.
And Squidge made a video about it just because I asked in the post-match interview for one.
Yeah, they've got a qualifier against USA going away. So let's be honest, they're not going to qualify for the World Cup.
Well, I don't know. Have you seen the state of USA rugby?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but quality will tell there. I'm putting that one. That's another one of my bold predictions.
So as Angus is saying, the first leg's in Santiago, home advantage to Chile. The second's in Denver. Now, I think Denver's a good place to go and play the USA because it's not Texas in the 40-degree boiling heat
in the summer.
Although it is really high.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that is true.
But then again, Santiago's not sea level, is it? So...
No, exactly. So is Chile, yes. So it'll be okay.
I'll tell you what is interesting about this team, by the way, is not only Luke Crosby captain, but Sione Tuipulotu vice captain.
And at 12. And at 12.
At 12. They're not giving up on that, are they?
They really are.
It is interesting. It's a quick turnaround to have somebody come into the squad and then become vice captain that quickly. But then I suppose on the other side, who else could you have in the backs other than, I suppose, Rufus McLean, maybe? But I suppose he's there because he's out of them all. Sione Tuipulotu has the most caps out of that back line.
Surely Hornito's got more caps.
Hornito's got more. You're right.
But then you don't really. I think if I was putting something together, I wouldn't be putting the pressure on George. I would not be vice captain. I would rather
just near a referee.
To be captain anyway.
Yeah, don't let him near a referee.
And also, he does like to swear in the company of a referee.
Yeah, I just want him to get a good couple of games under his belt and actually show people again what he is and how.
I can't believe that Craig's not suggested Damien Hoyland for vice captain.
Well, actually, no,
you can't have someone from the back 3 years captain, Johnny. We've talked about this before.
Vice captain. Did you
not say Rufus McLean?
Yeah, he did say Rufus McLean.
There's just something wrong.
So you started it.
It's the back. It's because he's in the back 3 years.
Cam.
He spent too long standing around with his hands.
Cammy started it.
Rufus McLean is so quick though that you don't know he's in the back three because he's actually in the midfield.
He'd be up by the referee in no time. Be fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
are you trying to say that I'm too slow? Is that your suggestion?
If it sounds like a duck, Johnny.
if the shoe fits.
The only issue I suppose is with this tour is I don't know what we learn about anything this far out from a World Cup, because I think you could. I don't know what. It's not the full. Townsend's got the excuse of it's not a full squad. The squad's not at full strength. It's almost at full strength, but it's not full strength, and he'll tinker around and play around with things. And I don't know what. I think the coaching staff will learn more than we'll learn.
Yeah, I guess what you'd want to see is either Javid Sebastian or Murphy Walker have 2 or 3 really good games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Murphy Walker.
But then you want
twice the player Sebastian.
But the thing is, you want those players to get. It's for me, from what I can see, you're wanting to bring players that are borderline going to the World Cup in your head, or are new to the Scotland setup, and you want them to deal with a tour. So like Luke Crosby, Marshall's injured, but what's his name?
Glenn Young.
Glenn Young, the back rower, Ben Muncaster. You're wanting these guys all to go out and actually get used to it. You want
this is the last time there's going to be a tour before the World Cup.
And you want Schumann to experience it as well, and all these different things. But also you want the young lads like Luke Crosby, to be made captain of the A side. He's obviously got a great opportunity of going to the World Cup, or he's in Tooney's mind. So you're going to take him to try these different things. That's why I don't really get the whole Hamish Watson thing, and because I don't. You're not doing anything for Hamish Watson apart from giving him a wage.
I suppose the only thing you're doing for Hamish Watson is I suppose the question: Hamish Watson's there for others. Hamish Watson's there to sit around the campfire and tell war stories of being on the Lions tour. To kind of rally, say I've done these tours before. It's a lot of fun. I've been there before, lads. Here's my stories, and here's where
I think Hamish Watson, to be honest, is probably there a bit for Hamish Watson as well, because since the Lions tour, when have we or anybody else spoken about Hamish Watson? We've spoken about Rory Darge. We've spoken about Luke Crosby.
Or we have spoken about him in
Jack
a negative.
Dempsey. We've spoken about Ben Muncaster. And it's a bit of like, oh, don't worry, Hamish, come along. You're still here. Don't worry about it.
Come and have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
That logic. Explain Ali Price.
Well, I think Ali Price I think Ali Price is playing within himself quite a lot as well. I mean, he's had a good game. I think both Hamish Watson and Ali Price, I think, have struggled after the Lions tour. So I think I can see it both ways. One is you give them a rest from rugby. The other side is you go away on a lads' holiday and you play some rugby while you're out there, and maybe take the responsibility off a little bit and just say, look, you're here to look after the young lads. That we're not. You'll play the games, you'll play some games, but mainly what we want you to do is come out and have a bit of fun and relax a little bit on tour, rather than having the weight of the world on you.
Do you think they've learned anything from last time out with Tommy Seymour? So he's the name that kind of comes to mind. Tommy Seymour never recovered from the Lions tour. He was never the same player that he was when he went out there. And I do wonder if they're taking a different approach, because he was given a rest straight after and he was given all the kind of time and stuff, and he just never came back. He was never as driven. He was a great player, but just never quite reached the levels that he was at. So maybe they've said to these guys, like you say, let's go on a lads tour. We'll give you 20 minutes at the end of one of the Argentina games, Hamish, but actually just come and train, take it easy, have some coffee with the boys, all good.
Yeah.
Possibly.
And even if he, from a certain point of view, it might even be come over to South America and beat up some Argentinians for a few weeks. get out your system.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and come back and have a nice, have a good time. Come and play against Argentina for 3 weeks, and you'll get your confidence back, get your mojo back a wee bit, and
because there is some quite weird places as well. So, like, depending what the restrictions are like, it's probably quite a fun tour.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think there is an element of, because rather than going stewing and watching it on telly and wishing you were there, and maybe they've been given a choice.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If you need a rest, have a rest. If you don't, if you'd like rather come out with us and have a bit of fun on tour, on you go. Well,
But I think the opposite was true with Stuart Hogg and Finn Russell. I think they were told absolutely outright, "You're having the summer off."
You're having the summer off.
Go away and think about your actions, boys.
Go and check your ego in.
Aye. maybe move house.
I suppose, because it gives the cynic within me still thinks it's an opportunity for Scotland to move on from Stuart Hogg as captain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you have a clean break and you come back and go.
Townsend hasn't committed.
He's not been dropped as captain. We've just decided to go in a different direction. We've had the summer to reflect.
It's a real shame that Jamie Ritchie's not making these games.
Yeah. You've got no doubt if Jamie Ritchie's there, he captains the side for these games, and
that's
that
it
it doesn't even get mentioned about in the next fixtures. It is just, Jamie Ritchie's continuing as captain. No mention of Hogg.
Okay, right. I think that's it for this week.
That was
for the main
bang
podcast.
on an hour when you said that.
That was bang on an hour. I know it was.
Very well done.
Impressive.
Makes it look like these things aren't planned, John.
We can cause you a wee bit of bother and just keep talking just now.
You could do. When Ian was on the other week, he kept talking through the bit where I normally like a bit of silence, so I can find the silence to split the episode in two on audio afterwards. But he kept talking.
He did that.
To be honest, you could just make that Ian's catchphrase, but you kept talking.
Anyway. Look, that's it for us for this week for the main podcast. If you're a Patreon and you're watching live, hang about, and we'll be on to the Patreon only section in a moment. If you are listening on the audio podcast on the Patreon, then you'll get part 2 of this podcast separately. Otherwise, for this week, it is goodbye from me and goodbye from Johnny, John, and Craig.
Bye.